Today we will be creating a project, but first, let me tell you a little about our museum. Welcome to the Dixon Gallery and Gardens. We are an art museum and gardens that is located in Memphis, Tennessee, not far from the University of Memphis and the Botanical Gardens. As you walk through the doors of our museum, you will be welcomed with both art and flowers of all kinds. Once you have found your way past the special exhibits, you will find the Dixon residence. Did you know that the Dixon started as the home of Hugo and Margaret Dixon? They had an art collection of 6 sculptures and 27 paintings. That became the start of the Dixon Museum's permanent collection. These works of art are very special because many are from Impressionist and Post-Impressionist artists in Europe and America. Impressionism started in France in the 1860s with a small group of artists you may have heard of. Claude Monet, Camille Pissarro, Edgar Degas. Do any of those names sound familiar? You are looking at some of the paintings of these very artists. Their paintings are truly amazing and very colorful. You can see the big brushstrokes, and in some places where they didn't even bother mixing the colors at all. What fun it must have been to get to paint like an Impressionist. You too can paint like an Impressionist with your own paints. If you want to get a closer look at these amazing paintings, we would love to have you visit us. We are always free, every day, even weekends, except for Mondays, which is the day we are closed. That day, we get our museum and gardens nice and ready for our guests for the rest of the week. We hope to see you soon. Now that we've learned a little bit more about the Dixon, let's take a look at some of the other works in our permanent collection. Then we can work on our project. Are you ready to have some fun?
Let's take a closer look at some of the artwork in the Dixon's permanent collection. We're going to look at 4 paintings today. First, let's look at this painting by Claude Monet. What do you think's happening here? What colors can you see that the artist used? Next up is a painting by Gaston Latouche. What do you think's going on here? Do you think it would be louder or quieter than the painting we looked at by Monet? Next up is a painting by Marc Chagall. This one is a little bit hard to figure out what's going on. Take a look. What do you see? What do you think is happening here? And last up is a painting by Charles Courtney Curran. This one is a little harder to see. It's very dark, so look closely. But what do you think is happening? Did you notice anything that was the same for all 4 of these paintings? We know that they're all paintings, of course, and that they belong in the Dixon's permanent collection, which means they're never going to leave. You can see them anytime you visit the museum. But more than that, they also occur at night. Some of them seem early in the evening, while others seem late, but they all happen in the evening. All 4 of these paintings are going to be our inspiration today for making our art project. We're going to make our very own museum at night. Here's what we'll need for today's project. A piece of transparency film, which is just like clear plastic, a piece of black paper, a stapler, a piece of white paper, and some permanent markers. If you're using supplies provided by the Dixon, you'll notice that there's already a drawing on the clear plastic of a museum wall, and a drawing of a flashlight on the white paper. But if you're using your own supplies, don't worry, these things can be drawn. Let's gather our supplies. First up, I've got my transparency film, or you can also use a piece of plastic. I've printed a museum design onto this transparency film, but if you don't have that, you can always draw your own picture frames on your plastic. Next up, we've got a piece of black paper, mine is cardstock so it's a little thicker, a piece of white paper, and again, I've printed out a flashlight design on this, but you could definitely draw your own. Just make sure to include the beam of light. We need some scissors, a stapler, and some permanent markers. It helps if you have different sizes of permanent markers to use. First, we're going to draw some different works of art on our transparency film with a black permanent marker. Think about the types of art that you would see in a museum. You're not just going to see one kind of art. That would be boring. Instead, you're going to see sculptures, you're going to see still life, which are pictures of objects. You'll see portraits, which are pictures of people, or landscapes, which are pictures of nature. You can draw any kind of design you want, but do think about how these artworks are going to go together. For example, with mine, I'm using this common theme of nature. All of my artwork is going to be something that you would find in nature. You don't have to use this theme, this is just one example. Usually on pedestals, you're going to find 3D works of art. So those are things like sculptures or pottery or even flower arrangements at the Dixon. Next up, I'm going to start working on the frames. Even though this is a two-dimensional work of art, I am still thinking about what theme it can share with my 3D works of art that I drew on my pedestals. I'm starting with a still life. Remember, there's lots of different types of art. You can draw anything you want, just as long as it connects with the other works of art that you're drawing today. Now I've got all the line work done for my artwork. Next up, it's time to add color. A little trick is to flip your page over so that when you add the color, it doesn't smear the black lines that you just drew. Not only am I going to color in all of the artwork, but I'm also going to color in the frames, the rug on my floor, the floor itself, and you can even color the wall. Curators, those are people who choose the artwork and design the exhibits, often choose different colors for the wall that complements the artwork that you see inside. Ta-da! My gallery is finished, but it doesn't look like it's at night yet. So I'm going to put it on top of a piece of black cardstock. I like to put the color side down and the black side up. That way I'm less likely to smear my design. I'm going to use a stapler to add just a couple of staples at the very top edge. This is a good time to turn your artwork over and write your name on the back. The last step today is to color our flashlight. If you're using one of the templates, all you have to do is color inside the lines that are provided. Then we'll cut it out. Just remember that you're going to color only the bottom of the flashlight and not the beam itself. If you don't have one of these templates, then you can draw your own, but just make sure to include that cone at the end so that your flashlight looks like it's actually lighting up. Time to cut it out. The only thing left to do is slide your flashlight in between the clear film and the black paper. You can use the white part of your page to light up the artwork and be able to see it clearly, so that it looks like you're shining a light on the artwork that you created. Great job today! Thanks so much for watching. I hope you'll visit the Dixon soon, and as always, stay creative!